welcome back. Are you the type of person who goes for a walk outside when you're feeling down? You ever notice feeling happier when surrounded by trees, sand, or water? Well, according to our next guest, research proves there's a real connection between nature and your well-being.
Here to teach us about how Mother Earth can be a natural mood booster is a happiness researcher from Western University, Gillian Mandich. Welcome back.
Welcome back. I totally believe in this, Gillian, because when I'm out with my dogs, either on the trails or at the beach, I find that I'm more positive, which is weird for me because my predisposition is to be crusty and complain. So what is happening to me out there?
You know, I refer to nature as vitamin N, because just like we need all these different vitamins and minerals to have optimal health, we really do need nature to support optimal health and wellness. And so what happens is when you go out into nature, we not only see positive physiological effects on the body, but also mental as well. So when you go, for example, you go hiking or camping, things like that, we actually see changes in your immune function, in your mental health, and in your happiness.
Okay, so let's get down to the research. What does the research say about this?
Yes, so there's a lot of research showing the correlation between happiness and overall health and wellness when you connect with nature. In particular with happiness, what you see if you do a brain scan, there's an area of the prefrontal cortex that is activated when you go out into nature. And when someone's depressed or has anxiety, you see low activation in that area of the brain. So what that research is telling us is that when we go out into nature, we can actually activate that part of our brain and enhance our health and our happiness.
That's great.
Now, when I hear trees blowing in the wind, like the leaves blowing or the sound of the ocean, I am in a very, very happy place, and a happy face as well. But, you know, is it as simple as that, like being in the sunlight or hearing sounds? Is that what makes nature so beneficial?
Yes, it's a full sensory experience being out in nature. And so when you look at nature, you see a lot of what are called fractal patterns. So these mathematical patterns that are more complex. So you see it in a coastline or a mountain range, or when you look at the top of like a broccoli or a cauliflower, the patterns that you see. And when you go out into nature, you see these fractal patterns, and it has an anxiety-reducing effect, as well as giving you mental clarity and focus. So when you go out in nature, you tend to see that versus in an urban, man-made environment, you see a lot more straight lines and things like that. So you get that mental clarity. Yeah, looking at your phone.
Okay.
And also like the sounds that you hear, right? The birds and the water and the rustling trees and things like that. It calms you. It creates a lot of less anxiety, stress, things like that. But also, you think about adding that when you go to nature, you're also subtracting a lot of the noise that we hear in the city, the construction and the traffic and the honking. You get rid of all of that so your body can get quiet and calm and relax.
So does that mean then that people who live out in the country away from like these urban centers are more happy than people like us?
You know, you can create happiness no matter what environment you live in. And yes, it might be easier for someone that's in the country to walk out their back door into a forest, absolutely, but that doesn't mean because you live in the city, you can't connect with nature. So finding hiking trails, walking paths, things like that, you can actually still connect with nature in the city. I also encourage people to take what I call urban hikes, where you go out biking or walking or inlining in a neighborhood, and you actually get a double happiness boost there because not only are you seeing nature on the front lawns and the gardens, but you're doing physical activity, so you're getting a double.
And I just did this this past weekend. We have like a trail right near our house, so I took my son out for the first time, just kind of wandering and went down his pace. It was so nice to also force myself to slow down and not be goal-oriented and be out in complete nature. Yeah, it was really good.
And much like that, because I think the toddlers force you to kind of get out, but I lived on a farm forever, so being with horses in nature is kind of my default. And with my daughter, I'm trying to keep that going with her because we've recently moved back into the city as well. So now there's that challenge. How do I where do I find those places that you just don't walk out the door and find? So I want to know, does a park, you know, playground, running out with the kids, does that cut it to try to give them that little nature boost?
Absolutely, nature is nature, and in a good, better, best situation, yes, you know, a farm out in the country with a less noise, less traffic, things like that, less air quality, a higher air quality out there is good, or is best, but nature in a park can still be really good. When you actually step 200 meters away from the road, so most parks aren't right beside the road, the amount of vehicle emissions is 4 times lower. So even getting off the main roads as compared to standing right on the sidewalk can be really beneficial. And you know, any nature is still nature. There's actually research to suggest that if you look at a picture of nature, you can actually have some of those benefits. They're not as profound as actually being in nature, but they're still significant. So, you know, anything nature related, you're gonna see health benefits.
When Cynthia's out with Jaya on the trails, I am out on those same trails with my 2 dogs. And I do feel really relaxed when we're out there. There they are, they're relaxed, I'm relaxed, their tails are up, my tail is up. How is stress actually being reduced in those moments?
Absolutely. So when we go into nature, we give ourselves an opportunity to slow down, to calm down, things like that. So getting out there, connecting with the sounds of nature, and actually in terms of stress, there was a really cool study done at Texas A&M where they looked at people in their workplace. And one of the groups actually looked out at a forest, and one group had no windows in their office. And what they found was after they accounted for everything, gender, age, job roles, the people that actually could see the trees had significantly less job stress and were more productive than people that didn't even have windows.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. Wow. Now, I feel like I've created my own little bit of nature in the city on our deck because we don't have a backyard. So we got a whole bunch of pots, we filled them up with plants, and we created sort of this little urban oasis. And gardening has been really, I feel like it brings me a lot of happiness. Look at how happy I look. We also spray ourselves with the hose because we don't have air conditioning. That's me in my bathing suit. More importantly, does gardening make people happy?
Absolutely, absolutely. There's research to suggest that even 30 minutes in the garden can reduce your stress and your anxiety. And not only that, like, how do your hands look after you come out of the garden?
Oh, they're filthy.
Right?
Yeah.
So the dirt and the bacteria that you get when you're out in the garden actually has a positive effect on your immune system as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, when I'm out with the dogs, I'll show you that picture again because I'm going to zoom in on it because in my left hand, you can see my phone. So one of the reasons why I have my phone with me is for safety. You know, you're out in the trails. Another reason is because I need to know what Beyonce is doing at all times. But is it affecting the way I'm experiencing vitamin N?
So there's a lot of researchers that suggest that, you know, the constant bombardment that we have right now of all this technology, our notifications from Facebook, email, Twitter, Instagram, it almost creates like a cognitive overload on our brain. And our brains weren't necessarily designed to have that all of the time. So when we can unplug, even for a little bit, and go out into nature, the area of our prefrontal cortex that is overstimulated, it almost gives it like a recovery period. That's why a lot of times you'll hear people have like really good ideas when they're on a walk, or they can think more clearly, or they're able to solve a problem that they couldn't before. It's because they actually gave their brain time to recover and to restore itself to its optimal function.
That is so true. That's why I feel like I get my best ideas in the middle of the night, because that's the only time my brain turns off and just wakes me up. Well, what would you say to those people who are watching this right now and think, I don't have the time to get out into nature? What would you say to them?
You know, even 5 minutes is better than no minutes. And I call it vitamin N for a reason, because we need to commit to finding and keeping it and getting it all the time for optimal health and wellness. And what's really great is that there's actually a cumulative effect. So 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there, and, you know, unplugging just for a couple minutes over the course of a day can really add up, and you'll see positive health benefits, mental health benefits, and happiness benefits.
Gillian, thank you so much for this great... We'll have a recap of all this information on our website right after the show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.